I am Vasanthi, Assistant Professor, CS Department, St. Joseph Institute of Technology. Today we are going to discuss about MapReduce concept. MapReduce concept in cloud computing. Before entering into the MapReduce concept, what are all the topics we are going to discuss today? So first one is why we need to study the MapReduce concept. So need to study the MapReduce concept. The second one is what is MapReduce? Third one is how MapReduce works. How MapReduce works. And fourth one is processing stage of MapReduce. Here, either it is called the processing stage or processing phase. So, processing stage of MapReduce. And fifth one is example of MapReduce. Example of MapReduce. So now we move on to the first one, why we need to study the MapReduce concept. In older days, most of the company use the traditional model. The traditional enterprise system have a centralized server to store the data and process the data. Due to increase in the data volume, increase in the data volume, increase in the data volume, due to increase in the data volume, the centralized system or the traditional system cannot handle the huge volume of cannot handle the huge volume of data efficiently, and it cannot have the database server also. So moreover, the centralized system creates too much of bottleneck problems while processing the data simultaneously. What is the problem name? Bottleneck problem while processing the files simultaneously. Bottleneck problem while processing the multiple files simultaneously. Multiple files simultaneously. Multiple files simultaneously. Google solved this bottleneck issue using an algorithm or concept called MapReduce. So this is a very important thing. Now we move on to the what is MapReduce. Using the MapReduce concept, we can process the huge volume of data efficiently and simultaneously. Now we move on to the what is MapReduce concept. So MapReduce is a programming model for processing large data set using parallel computing and distributed computing concept. Actually, MapReduce is a framework or programming model. So we are called as a either framework or programming model. This programming model is used to process the huge volume of data simultaneously and efficiently. In MapReduce, first it splits the data, it splits the splits the input data. It splits the input data into number of blocks. Number of blocks. In MapReduce concept, this is a very important thing. First, splits the input data into the number of blocks and combine the input blocks and finally to produce the final output, to produce the final output. So this is a very simple concept, a very easy understanding manner of MapReduce concept. We have the assume we have the input file. That input file is going to split into the number of blocks. Again, it combines the final output. So the third thing is how MapReduce works. Third one is MapReduce works. MapReduce works. How MapReduce works. Okay. So the MapReduce algorithm contains two important tasks. Two, two important tasks. One is map task and the second one is reduce task. So MapReduce have two important task. One is map function and another one is reduce function. Now we going to see on the map function. The map task takes the data and converts into the another set of data, which means that the map task takes the input set of inputs and converts into the another set of input, produce the another set of output also. So here first thing, the map function input is split into the input file is split into the blocks number of blocks or chunks. Number of blocks or chunks. Number of blocks or chunks. Each chunk is by the mapper function. So the mapper function generate the key comma value pair. That key comma value pair is called the intermediate values. So here the intermediate value is very important thing. Each and every splitted input is converted into, or each input value is represented in the form of key comma value pair only. That is called the intermediate key comma value pair. Okay, so the next one, reducer function. So second one is reduce function. The reduce function takes the output from the map function as an input. That is intermediate key comma value pairs. That intermediate key comma value pairs combine those value with the same key finally to produce the final output. So this is the reduce function. The reduce system groups all intermediate values by using the name of keys. The reducer process each group and produce the final output. The reducer function is always performed after completing the map function. So this is the map reduce task. Fourth one is MapReduce workflow or processing stage of MapReduce. Processing stage of MapReduce. First, we are going to see the visual representation of MapReduce. Visual representation of MapReduce. First, we have the input file. We have the input data. The input data is going to split. So the second one is split the input data. Split the input data. The splitted input data is entering into the map function. Map function. So the map function generate the key comma value pair. That is called the, here in map function, the parallel for each split. So it generates the key comma value pair. It is called the intermediate key comma value pair. So after that map function, it generates the intermediate value. Intermediate key comma value. The next one is shuffling, sorting, shuffling, sorting, shuffling and sorting, sorting. Next one is reduce function, reduce function. Here all splitted data is grouped by key. Grouped data by key. So finally, it produced the final output. It produced the final output. This is the visual representation of MapReduce workflow. First, we are having the input data. The input data is split into the number of blocks. Next, the splitted input data is entering into the map function. So, splitted data is each block is processed parallelly. So, the map function generates the key comma value pair, that is called the intermediate key comma value pair. So this is a very important term. And the next one is shuffling and sorting. According to their alphabetical order, the key values are arranged. The key comma value pairs are arranged. Next one, the reducer function. The reducer function, the sorted key comma value pairs are grouped using by the key. So the next finally it produce the final output. So this is the workflow of MapReduce concept. MapReduce a logical data flow in 5 processing stages. So 5 processing stages. 5 processing stages. First one is input splitting. Second one is map phase. Third one is shuffle and sorting phase. Fourth one is reduce phase. Fifth one is output. So now we are going to see the first stage of MapReduce, input splitting. So we know what is input splitting. Here the input data is split into fixed size of chunks, that is either 64 KB or 128 MB. So a large text file is split into the multiple parts. Each part is processed by the map function, or each part is processed independently. So this is the input splitting part. The second one is map phase. Map phase is user defined. It is a user defined function. Each input part process a sequence of key comma value pairs. So the key comma value pairs is producing zero or more key value pairs. That is key comma value pairs. So in every step, in MapReduce concept, we are using the term key comma value pair only. So the mapper function generate the key comma value pair as called the key comma value pair. So the third one is shuffle and sorting. The large data set organize the intermediate values by their keys. The individual key comma value pairs are arranged into a large data set by sorting according to their keys. Sorting them according to their keys. Because of using the key values only, it arrange the alphabetical order. The next one is reducer phase. So the reducer takes the grouped key comma value pairs data. That is, it takes the key and its list of values. It processes and combines these values to produce the final output. So the next final phase is output phase. So the final results are returned to the output file in the distributed file system, that is the Hadoop distributed file system. That's all. These are the 5 processing stage of MapReduce concept. So next we can see the example of MapReduce. One of the most well-known MapReduce example is word count problem. Here, to count the number of occurrences of each word in a document. So, let us consider we have the text file called sample.txt. So, the file contains the file contains most people most most people ignore most poetry, and most poetry ignores ignores most people. So this is the input file. This is the input file. The input file contains most people ignore most poetry. most poetry ignores most people. Now we have to perform a word count problem on the sample dot text using the MapReduce concept. Now we move on to the how we are performing the MapReduce concept. We have the input file. So the input file, we know that the input file contains most people ignore most poetry. Most poetry ignores most people. So this is the first step. First step, the input file. Okay. So next one, the step we already we saw the 5 processing stage of MapReduce. So the first stage is input file. The input file is going to split into the number of blocks. So we can split into the input file. Second step is input splitting. So we can split the input file. So most people ignore ignore most poetry. Next one, most poetry ignores most people. So see, this is the input file. This input file contains most people ignore most poetry. Most poetry ignores most people. Now we are going to split into the number of blocks. So this is one block. This is the another block. So first block, we are splitting the input. Most people ignore most poetry, and the second block is most poetry ignores the most people. Now the next step is mapping function. Third one is mapping function. So in this mapping function, we can use the splitted input data. So in the form of how we are representing using the key comma value pairs. So in the first block, the word contains most. So this is the key most. Most. This is the key because of we are representing the key comma value. So key comma value here. Key is the word. Key is the word and value is the how many times it occurs. That value is 1. So here the first block contains most. The first word is most. That is the key. That value is 1. Similarly, the next word people, comma, the value is 1. The next word is ignore, value is 1. And the next word is most comma 1. Here the words are key and the value is represented the 111. So the next word is the last first block. The last word is poetry. Poetry, the value is 1. Similarly, the second block contains most poetry ignores most people. So we can write it same like also for first block, first splitter. So most the key comma value and poetry poetry, comma, value is 1, ignore, ignores, comma, 1. The next one is most, comma, 1. And the final one is people, comma, 1. So this is the input value. Here the splitted data is mapping. How we are mapping? In the form of using key comma value pairs. So the block contains n number of words. N number of words, each and every word is represented as key and the value pair, key comma value pair. The next step is shuffling and sorting. Here we are having two blocks. The two blocks contain n number of words. We can shuffle all the words and sorting the ascending order in sorting all the key comma value pairs. So we know the alphabetical order. In alphabetical order, we can arrange the key comma value pairs. So the first one, ignore, that is the alphabetical order. It comes the ignore is it comes the first order. The next one is ignores, comma, that is ignore is the key and value is 1. The next one is most, comma, 1. So the most word, it occurs how many times? See here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 times we need to write the key values most, comma, 1 and most, comma, 1, most, comma, 1. So the next word is people. People, comma, 1. Again we are having the one more people. So people, comma, 1. The next word poetry. Poetry, comma, 1. How many times the poetry word occur? 2 times. So we can write it 2 times. Poetry, comma, 1. So we can arrange the alphabetical order in using in the form of key comma value pairs. So the next step is reduce. So we grouped in the key and the list of values. So see here, the ignore word is the ignored word occurs the single time. So ignore, comma, the value is 1. And the next one is, sorry, here ignores, it comes ignores. So here also ignores, comma, 1. See here, the most word, how many times it occurs? So now 4 times it occurs. So we can use a single time, one time. Most, how many times it occurs? 4 times. 1, comma, 1, comma, 1, comma, 1. We are take it as a most word is 1 time. How many times occurs? Now 4 times it occurs. So the next word people. So the people occurs 2 times. So we write it as a single time. And the how many values 2 times it occurs. So we can put it as 1, comma, 1. And the next word is poetry. Same like similarly, the poetry, it occurs the 2 times. So we write it as a single time. And how many times it occurs? That value, list of values 1, comma, 1. So this is the reducer function. Finally, it produces the output. So, here the ignore word, how many times occur in the document? One time. And the ignores also one time. Most, how many values are there? 1, 2 time, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times. And people 1, 2 times, 1, 2, 2 times it occurs. And poetry, how many times it occurs? 2 times occurs. See, the final output is the ignore word occurs one time, ignores occurs one time, most term is occurred 4 times, the people is occur in the document 2 times, the poetry is number of occurrences in the document is 2 times. So see here, here we are having the input file. The input file, how many number of times the word can occur in the document. See, the most word is occur in the document. How many times it occurs? 1, 2, 3, 4. So using the MapReduce concept, we can find the most word is occur in the document, how many occurs, how many times occurs in the document? 4 times occurs in the document. This is the final output.